says, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment with a promise, so that it may go well with you and that you may enjoy long life on the earth. So a couple ideas about this. Number one, he says, children, and we talk about that, obey your parents in the Lord. Some manuscripts actually leave out in the Lord, and it's attributed to translators that took it out because they were concerned about the phrasing of it, because the Greek is en kurios. So kurios is typically applied to like Jesus, the word Lord, but the idea here isn't only obey your parents if they're Christians, which was the concern of some of the translators. The idea is obeying your parents because this is what God has for you. Does that make sense? It's a little bit what we talked about with husbands and wives and so forth. So it's not a command to children because in the early church, it's home churches, children are there. They would have heard the letter being read. The American church does it a little bit differently. But they would have heard the letter being read. And so it's going to come out, children, obey your parents because this is what God has for you. Now, in our culture where we live, who's going to apply that? And even in the early church, who's going to apply that? Parents are, right? Parents are going to apply that. But one of the things that we need to understand here, well, he goes on and he says this, for this is right. And the Greek word there, right, it's not like this is appropriate, like this is a good idea, or this is God's suggestion, or it's actually an imperative command in Greek. And the idea is it's the same word where we get our word righteousness. Like he has made us righteous. We are righteous in Christ, that we're right with God. It's that word. It's not the word appropriate in Greek or something. It's that is righteous, that God deems children obeying their parents as the right thing to do, the morally right thing to do. And it's kind of ironic. The next portion is to fathers, and I didn't plan that for Father's Day. I always forget it's Father's Day, and I forgot again until I got up this morning, and my kids had left me a couple notes. I was like, oh yeah, today's Father's Day. Respectfully, hopefully if you're a dad, it's encouraging, but you don't need Father's Day, right? Hopefully you're just doing what you should do. But he says here, as far as kids, he says this is the right thing. So as parents, we're going to be the ones that are enforcing this, right? We're going to be the ones that are going to bring this to our children's attention. But for now, tuck it away that God said it's good and it's right that your children obey you. Right? Our culture is a little bit scared about the word obey. It conjures up a lot of fear for us, and I think it's kind of just a general American idea that I do what I want and whatever. It's good, and God says it's right for the children to obey. We'll talk more about that when we get to the fathers. But he says here in verse 2, he says, honor your father and mother. So children, they're to honor them. And the Greek word for honor, it means to estimate or to fix a value. So little children are commanded to obey their parents. But when you're older, you're 20, you're 30, you're 40, you're not commanded to obey them anymore, all right? But you're commanded to honor them. And what that means is to assign value, to esteem them as have value. Now, I don't know what your parents were like, and I don't know parents that are here today what you're like. Maybe you're good parents, maybe you're bad parents. I don't know, right? Maybe you're probably like all of us. You're probably a mix. Good days, bad days, right? But the point is that we assign honor to our parents, whether they did things right or wrong in certain circumstances. This is not like go back to abuse or something like that. That's not the heart of this. The context here is for a parent that is believing and trying to raise you right. Okay? So this has nothing to do with going back to abuse or something like that. But the idea is to give them a value. If you're here and you're over 18 and you're out of your parents' house, they at least deserve the value that you didn't die, right? That you probably got food, or somebody came along and helped you, or something like that. And they probably did more than that. And so there's a value to that. And so you honor them in that respect. So he says that we ought to honor our parents, honor our father and mother. Also, it's noteworthy that it is father and mother. We're not to despise one or the other. He says, which is the first commandment with a promise. Now, this is a little bit weird because it's actually, if you esteem that, if you say Paul is saying that this is the first commandment that adds a promise to it, that's not true. Because the commandment right above it is not to worship idols, and there's a promise for that too, that God shows his love to thousands upon thousands who love him. This is the next commandment that's given there in Exodus chapter 20. So Paul is probably not saying it's the first commandment that has a promise or something that God says will happen if you do it. It's also probably not that this is the preeminent, over all the commandments. And this is the most important one. Jesus told us what the most important one, right? He told us straight up the most important commandment is to love God. I'm making it short, to love God and to love our neighbor, all right? Probably what Paul is saying here is that this is the most important commandment for children. All right? It's the most important commandment for children. If you sit down with your 5- and 6-year-old and you say, well, this is what an idol is, and this is, they're probably not going to fully grasp that. But what they can fully grasp is that they have parents, and it's good to obey them, and they ought to do that. And so Paul says, look, there's a promise. And he goes on, and he quotes from Exodus 20, and also in Deuteronomy. And the promise is this, so that it may go well with you, and that you may enjoy long life on the earth. Now, as parents, and at people who have had parents, will we and did they do things wrong sometimes? Yes. I mean, I haven't, but I heard that it happens, right? No, that's not true at all. But, it's apparently in some households, right? No, of course, we do things that are wrong. We don't even necessarily do it maliciously. Sometimes we do it ignorantly. We're trying our best, or we think it's what's right, and you just do it wrong. And most of us probably harbor great regret over that, right? It's difficult to stomach that we've done things wrong. But in general, even in simple things, for example, if you tell your kid, don't play in the street, and they obey you, then their life will go well and live longer, right? This is not like a general promise, like if you're an obedient kid, you'll never die. That's not the heart of it at all. Right? The heart is that if you listen to your parents, there will be portions of your life, it will go better for you. Just in general, for example, our kids over the years have learned that if they take issue with something we've said, and kids, if you're listening, let me just give you a pro tip for kids. If your folks say something and you don't like it, you just go, okay. Then you come back later and you go, hey, could we talk about that? Just a pro tip. Because it will go well with you and you will live longer. Right? Just like every human being on the planet, no one likes, yeah, but. Hey, could you clean this? Yeah, but. No, there's no but in that. This is not an if-then statement. This is a go clean that. And so as a kid, just say, okay. Then you can come back after it's established and say, hey, I'm going to go do this, but remember we have the birthday party in 15 minutes or whatever, right? So there's just a way to interact with your parents where you show them honor and respect, and you'll be amazed at the results it will get. But if there's a constant rebellion or interaction like that, guess what happens? How many of us have said and heard, if you make me have a decision now, the answer is no? Right? That's like a universal parental thing. Hey, can I go do this thing? I don't know. But I need an answer. Then no. Well, maybe we could wait. Maybe we can. Right? It's like, somebody said that, I think. Was there some wisdom? But you see, so it's a general promise that to children, if you obey and honor your parents, it will go well with you. If you do not do that, it will not go well with you, even though your parents and our parents are imperfect. So the Bible is calling us to honor them, give them worth, and to obey them as young children, and then honor them as we grow older, and that will lead to, it can practically lead to long life. Look in the not playing in the street example. It can practically lead to long life, and, I don't know, putting a helmet on. I know no one in Gen X did, but, whatever. It can be practical in a lot of ways. It can also be practical in interacting with people. Teaching your kids to interact. Listen to your parents. Don't smart off to people. Someday you might smart off to the wrong person, and you may not live long. Right? So there are real truths, practical truths in this first portion where Paul is writing to the churches in first century Rome and saying, honor your father and your mother.